and welcome to this workshop. I would like to start with grounding, and I ask each one here to, we're going to do the 4 sacred breaths. This comes from the Sufis, and it's breathing in and out your nose is the earth's breath. And imagine yourself breathing into the earth and bringing that energy up into you. We'll do it 4 times. Now the water breath, imagine pulling the water from the air, from the aquifers, from the clouds, from the rivers, from the ocean, and breathing that in, and like you're a fountain, allowing it to pour out of you. This is in the nose and out your mouth, like singing. Oh. Now the fire breath, imagining the magma in the earth, the fire within the earth itself, and pulling that energy up into your being and out your nose. And it's like the dragon, breathing in through your mouth and out through your nose. One more. And the last breath is the air breath. And this is in and out your mouth. And imagining space, everything within your body, your joints, your cells, all with adequate space between each other. Now I'm going to invite my associate here, Honeybee, to be the camera person. Come over and hold the camera. And this is Melissa Honeybee. This is our altar for this time with Scara Bray, who is the ancient goddess of the sweat lodge from Scotland. That effigy we estimated to be in about 8,000 BC. And also my associate here, Sheila, who is helping me. And I'm here. So you're going to hold this for me, maybe back a little. There you go. See me. Okay, I'm going to do a little prayer here and start teaching on this. Oh, it is I, Grandfather Whitewolf, praying to you. I ask permission, guidance, and protection of my spiritual guides and guardians to share this ancient knowledge, to share it at this time. And I ask permission, guidance, and protection of each person who is here to share this knowledge with each of them. Oh. A lot of people say, you know, what happened to the white race? Where are our medicine people? Where is our knowledge? Well, it never went away. It is still here, and it's in plain sight. All our medicine people are here. We are all here. What is not here is our culture and our tribes and our traditions that helped us to awaken to that knowledge. And today I share with you a tradition that goes back thousands of years. The Celtic Christmas ceremony is pre-Christian. It goes back thousands of years to the most ancient of alignments, the alignment of the sun and of the moon. This is my 46th ceremony. I began doing this in 1975. I was taught by an elder named Mellow Rye. She was medicine on both sides. She was Métis. She was Scottish Irish and Bear Clan, Cherokee Bear Clan from Arkansas. Mellow's ancestors came from Europe, from the British Isles in the 1700s to escape the persecution. Already there had been 800 years of persecution. It was very, very intense in Europe, what happened, and in the British Isles. For many years, it was underground. The teaching was not above ground because it was considered witchcraft. It was heresy. It was the death penalty. This is true. So it was put to the teachings, the 12 days of Christmas. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree, 2 turtle doves, 3 French hens. But it's sung backwards because what we are doing is we're honoring the 13 births of the moon in the year. There's only one birth of the sun, and there are 13 of the moon. We begin a ceremony and we align it with the new moon closest to the winter solstice. And this year, that will be December 3rd. There are 2 days that we begin where we reset time. The first 2 days, we reset the world around us. I'm sure all of us have done this, but it's like the first step around you is clearing that which you no longer serves you, that which you no longer need. And each year I do this, and I begin it really before the 3rd. I complete it by the 3rd, by the new moon. And I look at, well, I've had this now for 20 years. Why do I have this? Let it go. So that the space is open for new energy to come in, new life to come in. The second day is going within, letting go of emotions, traumas, feelings, experiences that you no longer serve you. Fear, anxieties, stress, letting go of that which you are done with. And then we clear, in these 2 days, we clear an altar. So this is the altar that we've created today, and it'll be much more formal and be a little bigger when I actually do the Christmas ceremony. Today I have 1 candle which represents the sun, and the first 2 days there will only be a sun candle, and on the first day of Christmas we will do 1 candle for the sun and 1 for the moon. Let me go up and get my little book here so I can share with you. Hold on. And that represents the first cycle of the moon. And in that time, we use our altar, we light our candles, and we sing the song. The first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. And it's, what is our gift in life? What are we here to do? What is our seva? What is our service in this life? And as we light our candles and we prepare the altar, we often use, we do what we call divining, scrying. Scrying is looking into things with your third eye. You're focusing your attention on your third eye. And I often close my eyes and I will ask a question. I ask guidance and inspiration for this cycle of the moon. And I record what I see and I write it down. And I've done this for 46 years. And we also use medicine cards. And I know many of you are familiar with the mermaid and dolphin cards. That's one of my favorite. And I'm going to draw one for today for us for this teaching. And I'm praying for the highest good of all. There were two. It came out. And it's three, actually. They just all flipped out. So that's kind of magical. It's about friendship. And the most important friendship for me right now in this is my personal alignment with Earth Peoples United. Because I'm bringing an ancient ceremony from another land to this land. And I've been doing that for many years here. And it's very important that when we bring ceremonies into an area, that we align ourselves with the dominant energy of the land, which is the brown race, the keepers of the land here. And so this is my intention in sharing this through Earth Peoples United, that this is a ceremony that is aligned with the other ceremonies that are here. There's many ceremonies going on at that time. And then for today, it's about empowerment. The power of this is to think of it like a car. If you have one wheel going one way and one going another way, you're not going very far. Aligning with nature. I don't care how many buildings we build and how many satellites, the dominant energies on this planet are still the sun and the moon. And this has helped me so much in my life. And the other thing, when we are doing this ceremony in the time that it is open, we have a like a peek hole to the future. And we can look into that time and get guidance. And 1 year, it's 2008, for the cycle of the moon that was September, in my screen, I got a group of people sitting around, and it was like an episode from Survivor, and we were voting someone out. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Well, it got to September, and I was up in the mountains, and we were harvesting a big cannabis garden. And one of the people in the circle basically went crazy. She was a young woman, and she came out panicking because there was this, what looked like a parasite in her urine. And she went all the way to the hospital and learned that it was her dental floss. Oh. Okay. And we went back home, and she called and said, I want to come back. And we voted her out. So, and it was exactly as we'd seen. So, you know, we do. And then the next time it was beauty and abundance. And that's exactly what came in that cycle. And then in 1 year, we were doing a ceremony, and we had 12 people in the room, and we were each scrying, and we were on the third or fourth cycle of the year, the third moon, and everybody felt a wave coming through. And I just noted it down. What does that mean? Well, that was the big tsunami that hit in Asia, that first big one that everybody, you know, lost so many people. So this is the value, how it empowers us. It's like having a roadmap to the future. And there's a kinship with the Mayan calendars, the calendars that give us the Earth's energies, how things are moving. So this is very, very important. This is how I have used this ceremony for these years. And each day, the energy builds up. We're going to the second cycle of the moon, the third cycle of the moon. Don't skip any. Fourth cycle of the moon. And when you register for the class, I'm going to write it all out for you. You're going to get this little handout during the preparation class. Do it. It's amazing. And I did bring the ceremony back to Europe. I did bring it to Ireland. I did bring it to Scotland, and I did bring it to England and to Wales. So this year, is the ceremony. And the 5th day, the 5th cycle of the moon, the 6th cycle of the moon, the 7th cycle of the moon. I have my little reader glasses here. What's the 7th cycle? Will be May 30th through June 27th. Then we go on the 8th cycle, the 9th cycle, the 10th cycle, the 11th cycle, the 12th cycle, and the 13th is the 13th birth of the moon, and that's the completion. And originally, this was taught as the 12 days of Christmas because we couldn't use the number 13. I grew up in Chicago. There were no 13 floors on any building in downtown Chicago. And that was that legacy of the Puritanism and of the persecution that happened in Europe. The way we got around it is we use 0, but now we can use 13. So that's how that ceremony, and over the years it has evolved. You'll need to get almost 96 candles, and we'll give you all that information in the preparation class.
White Wolf, can I share a little something? Just because I feel like we didn't do an intro that might ground some people into some of these things. So thank you all for your patience, as like we had some technical difficulties coming on, but White Wolf is flowing into the winter ritual that I want to say thank you, Grandfather. You know, I have had the blessing of having this ceremony in my life since he and I had the good and fortunate blessing of encountering each other at a ceremony in Guatemala and merging, you know, as a place of merging that Mayan ceremonial fire and the Celtic Christmas ceremony. And it's been such a intimate and profound teaching. And it's part of the wheel of the Celtic year, which in Earth Peoples United, we really honor every medicine person's traditional way. It's actually a little different than the Mayan way because we start in the spring, but this is the beginning of the wheel. And Grandfather's been holding this ritual that, you know, if you wish, you can take part of and participate with us, and we'll share more about that. And when I made this request of him to share, we had Grandfather, he shared this amazing, it was a flow, you know, it wasn't necessarily the how-to, it was the why, that we're all of this earth and that so many of us are, well, every single one of us, all peoples everywhere are a fragmented aspect of what their ancestral roots were. And as much as we're here to grow and evolve, we have these beautiful roots, and we have very, very sacred resource within ourselves when we align to the moon and the sun, when we honor what feels true to us, because it might actually be different traditional ways. You know, as a Mayan person, I am at home with Grandfather White Wolf. It's really about being with alignment and those that choose that personal work too. So that's why we chose to open it up this year. And I want to invite everybody to also just ask whatever you want about this process, because this is Grandfather White Wolf is referring to the Celtic Christmas ceremony. And I know that today's talk wasn't necessarily, like, unless you read all the way through, you'd understand that. And I hope you did. And we'll send out more information so you can just really study and learn more about that. But so much of what this invitation is for learning about how to work with the moon and the sun, sharing this. And I can't speak for you, White Wolf, but maybe this may be, you mentioned it once, this may be the last time you choose to publicly teach this ceremony. And that may change. but it is a really rare opportunity, and it's an opportunity for anybody who chooses to be here now or do that with us to really receive space in a circle for returning to a winter ritual. And we had a chance to talk about some of these pre-Christian, Grandfather Whitewolf is Celtic, but throughout Europe, there were pre-Christian traditions that when Christianity and Catholicism emerged, they aligned to those pagan, but they were really diverse indigenous cultural traditions of what is Europe, what we now call Europe and Eurasia, really. So want to honor that original medicine and why it existed. You know, the existence in the lore was really around how if we don't do something to connect and guide and see into the future, choose life, we may not survive that winter. Our spirits get really heavy, and we know this, right? We know this in our modern Christmas version world of life, and winter. That sometimes happens, and I had never gone back and studied these things after doing the ceremony for 9 years or something. Maybe it's been 9 years, I think. And it made such perfect sense because that's what this is. It's as much like a ceremony and sharing that could be more Christmas-like, because that's actually how my family does it. But it's also a very personal space of renewal. And that is the piece that we wanted to make sure was shared in this call so that there was context around what will be coming through what is, it is a ritual that lasts enough days to honor all those moon cycles. And we can share more details about that class structure, but we'll be doing that ceremony the whole time, and however you can do it as well in your own space would be really beautiful. And thank you, Grandfather, for letting me share these pieces, because I know in our planning they felt really important, and we want to make sure that if any of you have questions about that, that you have this space here to ask us. And it will be Whitewolf and I who will be co-facilitating those talks, but we're going to be in person doing ceremony together and may have separate altars at different times, but we'll be connected with anybody who joins us. So thank you, White Wolf.
Thank you, Raquel.
Please flow on.
I'd like to pass it around. Well, I want to go back to one more thing. In tracing my lineage to Wales, I traced my lineage back to the 12th century, that we had monks who married the earth. We tended the land. And we followed the Hebrew calendar, which is an ancient earth calendar. We actually spoke Hebrew. And what Christ meant to us was the light, the fire, the light of spirit. It was not about a particular person. It was about a life force and the energies of life and of creation on the planet. That monastery, the last known monk in the 12th century, his name was White Wolf. And I found the translation in the Welsh National Museum. So I could trace my lineage back to that. And so we are reclaiming something. And in a way, I think my biggest challenge in going back to my ancient traditions was they're too simple. We've grown up in a world that wants to make things very complex, and it's not that complex. It's fun ceremony. We laugh. Sometimes we share tea. And that's what it's about. It's about that sharing and that time. And it's also about us all aligning each with each other. So I'd like to just pass it and see if anybody has specific questions right now. So who can, I don't know if I can do that on here. Yeah, I guess I can. Yes, I can. So,
I think Hetty had a question, and
okay.
if anyone else that has a question, you can let us know you'd like, or just go after Hetty or drop it in the chat pod. Some people would prefer that we ask the question. We're available for that if you don't want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. And thank you, Grandfather Whitewolf, for sharing this with us. For myself, I've been working obviously with Earth Peoples United this whole time, and we're so much in many indigenous traditions, and I've really offered myself to the service of that. And yet through this invitation and this particular teaching, I'm like having a lot of aha moments for myself and my own lineage. And I wanted to ask the question that I have for myself, but I think a lot of people hold, and that's just if you have any guidance on those of us that would like to connect to our ancestors, but maybe we don't know who they are, we don't know much about them, and what could be ways to really like awaken that, invite that connection, and what are things we could do to really start that process of connecting to our ancestors and those that have gone before us, even if we know very little about that. Anything you might guide us in that way would be beautiful. Thank you.
Well, one is an invocation and a prayer, of course. You know, as I did in the beginning, I asked permission and guidance and protection of our ancestors and guardians. And in the beginning, I didn't really know a lot. I'd never visited Wales or the British Isles. I did have a Welsh grandmother, and that was my connection. And of course, through our DNA. Song is very powerful for opening that gateway. Sage, and one plant that I use in the Christmas ceremony is the mugwort, the Artemisia, because one of the gateways to the world of our ancestors, one of the first senses that works is the sense of smell. And mugwort is known by all the people that use it, and it's used by all the races, and it's used by almost every tribe that discovers it becomes a sacred plant. It's a dream plant, and through our dreams, they can connect to us, and that's helped me a lot. An example: my very first sweat lodge. I had no idea what a sweat lodge was, but I had a dream about it the day before, and I was in a kettle, a great big kettle being cooked, and I said, and there was kind of like a movie where a scene comes back and you see a picture of it. And there's this big smiling Indian guy, and he's all sweaty. He doesn't have any shirt on, and he's pushing me down in the water 4 times. And I had this pilgrim hat on, and it floated away. And I thought, well, this is very interesting. What does that mean? And that day I came to a community in Chico, and there was the guy. And we just hit it off. His name was Chemo Candelaria. He was Candelaria Indian. He was founder of the Brown Berets. And he was on his spiritual path. It was his first or second year of Sundance. And we just chatted all day. And in the day he said, we're going to have a sweat. What's a sweat? He said, well, you come, you'll like it. Well, it's 1979. In the foothills of the Sierras in March, and it's cold. And we're standing out in front of this little hut, and there's a fire, and there's little kids from 2 to 3, 4, up to teenagers. And the kids got runny noses, and wow, what's this crazy Indian guy doing? Then these kids got runny noses here, you know. But I'm going to go with the program here. I'm going to go in. And I went inside the sweat lodge. And when the door closed, this voice says to me, welcome home. And then in the third round of a sweat, for those who know what it is, when the door closed and in the darkness, I looked and there was a man staring me in the face. And he was very English. He was wearing a pith helmet and he didn't have a shirt on. He had khaki shorts and he was just staring at me. And that year, when my grandmother died, I looked through her pictures and it was my great-great-grandfather from England. And in his dreams, he said, I knew what a sweat was. And I found out he'd been to America a couple of times as an indentured servant. You know, you got to pay off your debt somehow. And what I believe, he sweat with the Lenape and the Iroquois. So our ancestors will come to us when we make that connection. We'll come back at the time when they still had that earth knowledge. That's very important. So the fire is important, the mugwort's important, the sage important, the invocation, and a calling song. The 12 Days of Christmas has been around for a while, that song, and singing that song will bring the ancestors. What I learned when I went back to Wales and Ireland and England is the medicines are all there. They're hidden in plain sight. When during the persecution, some of our medicines were so powerful that the songs were new words were put to it, but the power was in the song itself. It was in the rhythm of the song. So look at some of the more ancient songs that are so popular and hum the rhythms. You know, one that's very powerful that comes to mind. Hey, oh, oh, hey. There was an Englishman that was so moved by whatever the chants and the voices were of the African slaves on his ship, that he actually turned his ship around and took them back to Africa and let them go free. Wow. How powerful is that? I have a calling song, and I'm sure I picked it up along the way somewhere. I can't quite remember where. I've been so many places over 50 years and 80 years. Way, oh, way, oh, way, oh, way, way, oh, way, oh, way, oh, way open. That's literally what it means. Way open. And I sang that with my Christmas ceremony almost every year. And then the Christmas song itself. But I want to show you how powerful connections are to ancestors. This jacket was made by my aunt, who's Nordic. She knows nothing on the physical plane of my traditions. She's in her 90s now. And we all have this knowledge buried within us. Now, a lesson about bringing things back, take time. It's like our spiritual muscles. I'm aligned with the Shimish. I'm adopted Shimish. I'm adopted by the clan mother of the island band of the Shimish many, many years ago, 1982, 81. That's where my name comes from. And I know a little of their cosmology. And over 400 years ago, they put their medicines to sleep because they knew they were going through a time of persecution. And in the process of bringing them back, you don't bring them back all at once. Our connections have been severed. What caused that to happen? War, famine, persecution, upheaval, You, earthquakes, floods, pandemics. The plague wiped out more than a third of the population of Europe. Not 1%, a third. That's a lot of people. And what did it do to who survived? You know, so when we come back, we re-enter. So a very key part when I come to ancestors, when they start coming in, is a ceremony called forgiveness. The Ho'oponopono. Without forgiveness, we don't have a future. We're gonna have to learn to forgive ourselves and forgive each other. I am related to everyone from that island. I'm English, Irish, Irish North, Irish South, Irish English settlers that were sent in to oppress the Irish, and Scottish. We didn't all get along. Well, the wars are no longer between the Irish and the English and the Welsh and the blacks and the whites, and it's within. And it's going within. That's where we find our strength. I've done the very sacred ceremony of the Karo Apache. It's the one where you blindfold and you're giving the, it's not the belladonna, it's the one that's related to it. It's a very powerful medicine. I remember reading the history of it and how many young people, it was their initiation, and they lost a lot of young people. The amount that it takes for you to see is about the same it takes for you to see and leave. So it's the reason for the blindfold is to look for the power within. So this ceremony has helped me year by year. It's like taking chapters of a big book of life and getting a chapter at a time. I've got 46 chapters now. And that's how it helps Hetty. That's how it's helped me. And it comes in many different ways. And I think the most important, and it was a guidance from the Christmas ceremony, was go back to Wales. I needed to go back. And in my Christmas ceremony one year, I prayed about it. And very magically, somebody sent me a flyer about a spiritualist sanctuary in Wales. The Ystrad Gynllais Spiritualist Sanctuary, independent Christian church. They're very powerful people. They go to spirit. They go directly to the source. And I sent them a letter. I prayed on it my Christmas ceremony, and I sent them and I asked for some soil from Wales. I didn't hear from them. Gets to be May Day. I haven't heard. So I wrote them another letter. Summer solstice, I get a letter back. Well, Mr. Whitewolf, your first letter was an unusual request. Their healing sanctuary is like an emergency room. I've been there. They see hundreds of people every week for spiritual healing. They lay their hands on them and they pray, and they're very powerful people. And so one day it might be somebody with lung cancer, or a woman who lost a child that was murdered, or somebody with a skin condition, and they take whoever comes. And there's this guy from America asking for soil. So they put my letter aside to be answered. And then they were cleaning the office and they found a paperclip to a bottom of a pile. The next day, my second letter arrived. And then the third day, in a meditation class, somebody saw a grand white wolf with three things. Three is magic. They decided, we're going to go out and bless some soil and send it to him. And they did. And I put it next to my pipe, and it helped me bring me back to my ancestors. So the journey of ancestors is the knowing both the positive and the negative, but it's also a journey of healing. There's so much that we have gone through. When we shared the ceremony last was 13 years ago, or what is it, 2012 is what, 11 years ago, excuse me. And I remember it was Lake Atilan. We met Raquel at the airport that day. And when we do our ceremonies, first is with gentleness, what we're asking for. You know, remember, I'm the guy that one time kneeled at a fire and prayed for my life to change, and a rock landed on my head, almost killed me. My life changed. So I'm careful. I believe in the power of prayer, and I'm careful how I pray for it. So let's pray with gentleness and love. That's why I'm guiding you through it. It is important to have a guide in the beginning. And I only teach my ceremonies to someone who's, if it's here in the Americas, North and South America, who is also aligned with the native people here. To me, that is just so important. You know, when I have people come from Wales to see me, I make them go in through the Eastern Gate. You go meet the Iroquois, you go to Six Nations, and you go and find a grandmother. And I had somebody actually do it. She did. She went up and down. She found her grandmother to say, I'm going to come here. And she got a blessing and a song, and she came here. We can't change the past, but we can change the present. And we can change the future in changing the past. So bless each and one of you on that journey of ancestors. This ceremony is for this time. We're going to need every bit of knowledge, every bit of alignment to survive. And I'm not a pessimist by nature, but less than half the population is going to survive within 20 years. I'm not excited about that. I'm not happy about that. But I also know it's part of the change. And we're on the right path. We're doing it. Thank you, because we're bringing together all these beautiful people that are sharing songs, that are sharing their ceremonies. And I would like to make sure that we invite some of the elders from some of the other traditions to come and just witness and share with us these ceremonies. So that's my answer to that. My short answer. I could go on, but and the last one, I want to go with the song itself. 49, page 49. That's in here. Can you find that page? Let me find it. I'm going to go through it because it's important. It's very important, the teaching itself. And to let you know, when we used to sing it in Ireland, before people came here, we actually reversed one verse. And actually somebody might smile in a circle and they know, aha, somebody else that knows. Because it was only passed from initiate to teacher for a very long time, hundreds of years. By 1732, when Melorite's ancestor came to the Americas, it had already been underground several hundred years. So that's why. There's reasons you don't know. And I'll give you the other extreme. That up in the north, up where Scare Bray comes from, the men went back to the ocean rather than survive, because we knew we could be compromised. And the knowledge was actually sealed within many people. It was actually sealed within them, like a vault, that it's saved within you for the time that comes. I remember the Shemish telling why they put their ceremonies away for 500 years is that if it became out at that time, it would be abused and it would destroy the planet. But now is the time for it to come out. Now is the time to open up your gateways. Now is the time to open it and to heal that. And so I'm honored to be part of that. So here are some of the inner meanings of the 12, 13 days of Christmas. The 13 is just hallelujah, celebration. We've made it. We've done it. And I'll tell you, doing this ceremony, speed builds up, even though it's very simple. By the time you're doing the 6th, 7th day, whoa, you're really moving. Energy is moving. You're not moving so much at the physical level, but boy, your energy is moving. And I remember doing that ceremony at Lake Attilan. And that 7th day, I think it was the 8th day, 7th day, I have it in my log somewhere. And putting my that night, Tata Eric coming and saying, put your candles in our fire tonight. And seeing the dragons spiral together. Well, we're back. Piece by piece, we're back. And it doesn't matter if physically I am gone. I'll be helping you on the other side. Yeah, I might come as a butterfly. And then if a flicker eats me, I'll come as a bird. And if the hawk eats the flicker, then I'll come as a hawk. You know, we believe in that. And so nothing is going to stop this. We are here. We are back. You know, so
White Wolf,
I'll go from
can I share
go ahead.
something that
Yes.
it's not, well, I'm going to pose it as a question. It came as a comment because when I hold circles, there's usually a lot of really beautiful people who show up, and the majority are white. And the comment that was made connects to something that I recognize and always speak to, which is let's first speak to the guilt that is in the circle, or the awkwardness that maybe makes for hesitation when there's an invitation, in my case, to maybe a Mayan ceremony or cacao ceremony or something. But there's a hesitation within us, and that's rooted in a guilt.
Yeah.
And Hazel just commented saying, some of us carry guilt from what our ancestors have done. I guess this is where forgiveness is important.
Yes.
And yes, and all of our ancestors, and maybe if you skip through time, different people would be guilty for different things too, right? And through that time, we're all also part of this story of persistence of our ancestors. And here we are. You know,
Here we are.
And I will often ask people to take a moment, and you can all do this silently, take a moment and what you do know. And even people who are adopted and don't know their origin story, know the story of the people who tended to them, know the story of their persistence through life. And it is okay, because right now there's no mistake who's here, this full of ancestors. You know, many teachers talk about how if we're gathered here now, we were gathered together at one point in time and space, all these molecules that are all the elements that were manifest through all the races, maybe races that we don't even have names or knowledge of today. That was all part of what's right here. So I want to honor all of your ancestors and invite us all to just celebrate that if there is any violation, that this is an opportunity to heal it. If there is any place that any of our ancestors had conflict, this is a place for us to create peace. And more than anything, this is a place for us to call them in and own them, because then we integrate parts of ourself. And it's such a pleasure to have your whole being here. So take a moment to just think and imagine it even on the earth. I try to do this and I invite people, call it out, say, you know where they came from, you know what you're connected to, you know who touched you. I've never been to Wales. I don't believe I have Welsh ancestry, but I can feel the fire of those ancestors through my relationship with Grandfather Whitewolf and these ceremonies over time. That's just one story. We're all human in different ways, so calling in that ancestry. And it gets exciting when we realize that instead of feeling a little hesitation, we've just lit up the whole world. If we each turn on a light on a globe right now, that really was where our people were from, where the people who cared for us and we cared for are from, we've lit up the whole world.
Oh,
And now we get to be here as representatives, as ambassadors of that love, of that light, of that willingness to thrive and be good, right? We're here to experience goodness and overcome what's in the way of that. So I think that for a lot of the ancestral work, there is this piece of forgiving. And even in some African traditions that are, maybe it's around a violation that happened, it's always been so incredible to me that they set up an altar for forgiving yourself. Because no healing happens until we forgive ourselves for that being our story, even if we're the victim, you know, that's our story, and we carry it like it's like it's a curse. It's a blessing. So can you share more about that? What did my words provoke in you, Grandfather, around this piece of forgiving our ancestral wounds?
it brings back Lake Akilan, because during that ceremony, it was so powerful. I felt I was seeing eons of time. It didn't matter whether I closed my eyes or opened my eyes. I just kept seeing it. Time was going back in events and experiences of the last cycle that was closing, thousands of years. And on the solstice, my liver went out. I was jaundiced that day. My kidneys went out. Basically, my system started to collapse. And it was the guilt and the shame, the generations of what people had done to each other to survive. And it was a long journey to forgive. And it's all of us. I want to say something that really think about this. Racism has no race. I met in England a man who was from the native people of Taiwan. The people who live on the island and dominate are Mandarins. They're a different ethnic group from the mainland. It is treason for them to speak their language. 40 years in prison. People did a lot of things to each other everywhere. And that said, it was been a lot of work to forgive a lot of things. And when I look, I can't live in the past. We can't live in the past. We can learn from it, and we can create the future and the present. What I want to do now is the Ho'oponopono, to forgive anything that is in the way of us reclaiming our heritage, our ceremonies that are within us. Ho'oponopono is very simple. It means to put back in place. And in putting back in place, sometimes there's compensation. What can we make right in this time? And how do we do that? And for each of us, that's very different. I can't save the destruction of the earth, but I can save the earth I live on now. I can help create these beautiful little beacons of light on the earth that we have, our healing sanctuaries. So the words are very simple. Ho'oponopono. Please forgive me. I love you. I thank you. And it's to our ancestors. Ho'oponopono. 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 Please forgive me. Please forgive us. We love you. We thank you. Ho'oponopono, ho'oponopono, ho'oponopono. We forgive you. We love you. Thank you. Ho'oponopono. I could keep going on, but I'm feeling a lot of emotions coming up with that. And I may continue this after we close together, or I can continue it now. But it's both ways. Offer forgiveness too. In my last vision quest, I was 65. I've done many, and I always struggled, and I fasted and struggled and prayed, and I went in the lodge, and it came. Like, wow, it just came. I was ready. All the love was there, and I just spent 2 days in the lodge digesting it. And one part of it was the Dalai Lama. I just saw his face, and he looked at me and said, I needed to ask forgiveness of the Chinese. And I thought, what? What? You need forgiveness of the Chinese? I prayed about that for 2 days. I had a Taoist master teacher for 22 years who taught me the principles of from his traditions. Low battery. I gotta plug this in. Hold on.
We can still hear you, White Wolf.
Can you stay? Yeah, but I gotta plug something
yeah.
in here.
That's fine. Take your moment.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's any other questions out there.
Oh, here. Okay. Plug this in. Okay. Yeah.
And
Sorry.
Grandfather, let me just help you with a little time check. We have about 20 minutes left.
Okay, here we go. So
okay.
What I got was Feng Shui. One of the energies, when something more powerful is above you, you can get the impression it looks down on you. The Tibetans were way above China. And when the Chinese came, all the ways they welcomed them, they interpreted it as you're looking down on us. And then he offered forgiveness to them also. I was in LaPorte, Indiana, and I read a letter from an 11-year-old boy, how in 1891, the Native people were rounded up and sent east because of that, quote, uprising that happened at Wounded Knee. And I had to journey in. I said, these are my ancestors. What happened? Smell, sense of smell. Where did the fear come from? We were taught to fear the earth's smell. In the 1800s, Europeans didn't believe in bathing. It was sinful, it was baneful, and it caused the plague. Well, that's what they believed back then. And Indians stunk. They smelled different. Well, you know, when I lived as an Indian out in nature, everybody else stunk to me. You smell like aftershave. You smell like laundry soap. You smell terrible. So, you know, depends on whose nose is smelling what. All right. The things that we don't think about that create fear and patterns and divisions. And we can get over to that now. So I encourage you to include that for yourself in any way you can. I do the forgiveness ceremonies often, and I do it in healing work. And I go back and I'll go through a lineage, as through a father's side. I actually seen people's bodies straighten out and pain go away. I said, going back through time, I forgive all the experiences, negative and painful and traumatic, that caused this weakness in my body that manifests today as this disease, this spinal pain. And I forgive all those that were that we caused pain to, that caused them to have that painful experience with my ancestors. It's both ways. And I've actually physically watched bodies straighten out. That's how powerful the forgiveness is. Any more questions? I'm sorry we didn't get Alicia. She would share something, but she shared that ceremony with me for 10 years. 12 years, actually. 2 years after, last 2 years, I shared it with her a couple times.
Whitewolf was mentioning Alicia Bonet, who is somebody that he initiated into this tradition, his ex-partner and dear one. So she's actually going to be joining us through the Celtic Christmas classes when we actually do those gatherings. She'll join us because there's not that many people holding this. And I want to share that even the way it was guided into my life was so kind of radical. We were both traveling to Guatemala. I didn't know Whitewolf was going, and I had only met him briefly at a large gathering before. We had shared a wonderful lunch, and I connected with him, but I didn't know him well. Now it's winter time. That was last summer, and we're both traveling to the same place, but had no idea. And all my luggage got lost, and I closed my eyes and I prayed, and I said, okay, my cards aren't working, my luggage is lost. I'm coming for this ceremony. I'm gonna stay calm and trust that
Great source right here.
that I need to just stay in the spirit. And I'm closing my eyes and somebody bumps into me, and it's him, and he's walking backwards, and we bump into each other back to back.
Yeah.
Hi, you're here. Wow. We had no idea that we would both be there, but I ended up staying with Whitewolf and his partner, Alicia, who were doing the Christmas ceremony. And I got to wear Whitewolf's clothes as I had no luggage and really received these beautiful teachings in the most unexpected way. And then we traveled together and continued to do the Celtic Christmas because we were there for the Mayan turning of the ages ceremony, which was immense. And it ended up being quite the initiation. And part of the inspiration for sharing this particular ceremony, because this is one of many ceremonies through the year, you know, no matter what tradition or person, because this is also a space of honoring the traditions and inviting each one of us to create our rituals, because really they are simple. It's about the alignment and the participation with the elements and yourself and prayer. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because it's such an amazing way, that something that really transformed my own personal relationship to Christmas and the holiday time in ways that were beautiful. My daughter was 6 at the time, and she's been raised, you know, with this way. And yes, it's as much of your own holiday. If you have a religion or a spiritual practice, it's just such a universal way. We are all on earth related to the sun and the moon, go through the time, you know, we feel that full moon, whether we're honoring her. We go from winter to summer. We stop at fall and autumn, or spring and autumn, and we really can benefit from having a relationship to that, whatever that looks like, you know. So that's really the hope, that as we invite people to participate in this experience with us, our own winter ceremonies this year, that we're nurturing the cultivation of what that looks like for you. My altar looks really different than Whitewolf, and he taught me. And I'm honoring the ceremony he taught me, but my cultural expression of it is my own. And so is yours. You know, it's as much well, it's not about following or appropriating. It's about connecting with the keys of ritual,
Mhm.
receiving guidance, and then creating from that and discovering, because really it's good. It's good to root in winter and look forward. It's good to give in summer and be active and do all those things. So yeah, White Wolf, do you want to share more about that piece of personal ritual cultivation? I mean, when we're talking about the Celtic Christmas, but this is, we're talking about forgiveness ceremonies, and the Ho'oponopono is this traditional Huna Hawaiian tradition, but
Yeah.
any and all of us can create a forgiveness ritual or ceremony in our lives.
Yeah.
So what would be your guidance to someone if they, they're not, maybe it feels more authentic than referencing another culture, but that universal desire that culture has, that heart has to heal, what would be your guidance for creating a personal ceremony in that way?
Well, the way I created my own was when I do healing sessions, because that's what I do with people. And I start first with asking permission. I ask permission of myself and of my spiritual guides and guardians and of my ancestors to forgive that which it's time to forgive. And then I also offer forgiveness. And that is universal. I go to the Hawaiian because I do have Hawaiian relatives, and as the begin of it's the way of recreating our own. That's what inspired me to create my own ceremony that way. I have a beautiful picture of African tradition. And in an African tradition, it comes from a New York Times article almost 14 years ago. And it's a picture of an African woman with her nose had been cut off, it had healed. And there's a civil war going on in this country, and children are conscripted and then turned against their own people. And what the African people found is that the forgiveness was the most powerful way of defeating the war. And the condition was you come in front of the tribe and you acknowledge everything and you ask forgiveness. And there's a lot of tears and there's a lot of emotion. And when you're ready, they step on an egg. And the egg is cracking the egg open. You step with, I don't remember it was the right or the left foot, but you're being reborn. And it's a rebirth ceremony. Well, this says low battery again. Hold on. May not work, but let me get this
We'll
one.
hear you, White Wolf.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. This one's working better. Okay. All right. So it's just simple. Ask and give. Ask forgiveness and give forgiveness. Whether it's a person and it doesn't matter in the beginning. Well, I don't feel that. Okay, just say it. Say it and the emotions will come. And as you say it, you are through, like someone you don't like, somebody who really hurt you and offended you. I forgive you. Forgive me for what I did, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously, wittingly, unwittingly, that caused you to fear or have anger or hurt with me. And I do that often. Many times I do that before I go to sleep at night. I do it with my family all the time. It's important. And I ask forgiveness of whatever is in the way of the teachings at this time. I see it, people coming, you know. I had somebody to come and look at a sweat today. And what's interesting is the key to running a sweat is male-female balance. And so that issue came up for that person. Okay. So it's okay. It came up so that we can see it, we can deal with it, we can work with it. And it's the reason Alicia and I made it together 10 years. I never lived with somebody that long in a partnership, a relationship like that. And it's a reason that today she's one of my best friends and we are still really close. So we need to do that. That is what's come up today, and it is important. And in the water healing ceremonies, you know, we're feeling guilt. You know, we contaminated the water, but I asked, have you forgiven the water for showing us what we do? That's a way of looking at it too. You know, I had an Amazonian woman confront me. She's Amazonian native. She lived here for a year. She found me. And she said, "You're a water protector." I said, "Yes." "Where did you poop today?" "Oh." So I have a compost toilet now. So, but she caught me. She got me, you know. It goes on many levels. And, you know, we got to remember to enjoy when we're not angry, be happy, you know. And I want to sing a song for everybody to close this. It's my song.
Hey, White Wolf, before we close, can we just
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure there isn't, we have a couple more minutes. So if there is a question, I want to give you the audience if you if you'd
Okay.
like to ask
If you have a
folks.
question, please feel free to ask.
Yeah. And White Wolf, we've naturally flowed in to what the first part of the actual ceremony is, which is reflection, taking account of this past year, and doing that forgiving and clearing so that we can even enter the Christmas ceremony, the winter solstice ceremony. So we didn't really plan to have that be a focus today. It would have been a focus on our next class, and we'll really get into that deeply, but this is maybe what needs to happen right now, obviously, right? So thank you for giving us this focus and instruction on forgiveness, and I really love that, whoever may show up and do this, spend this time in this way with us, and whoever's been here now, however this teachings, these songs have touched you, helped you, maybe sparked something in you that can really be a blessing and a benefit. We just thank you for that gift of receiving, that gift of giving us, your own presence and time. And thank you, White Wolf. And I just want to let you sing your song and then have to make some kind of announcement after. And I don't see any questions. Is there a question out there?
All right.
Okay.
This song, explained very briefly, came when my granddaughter, Emily, was being born 30 years ago. I was driving through the tunnel that goes over the San Francisco Bridge. It used to have a nice, beautiful rainbow on it. And she was being born at that very moment, home birth. And I sang the song to her for many years. After many years, I started going to native elders and asking permission to sing the song when I was passing through their territory, because I know these songs, they're very simple sounds, and they're very primal, and they may have other meanings in other languages. My happiest moment was in Hawaii at a big gathering where I was invited to sing to the Hawaiian elders. And I was a little nervous because it sounds Hawaiian. And I was very grateful to have the opportunity. And then I was told that the language of this song is Lemurian, which is the root of the Hawaiian language. That in the time of change, the children of Lemuria would be called home. So how far back do we go to find that we are all related? Yeah. So I'm singing to each of you. Amalakia, amalakua, amalakua, amalakia. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being. Thank you for being. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being. Thank you for coming. Amalakia. Amalakua, amalakua, amalakia, to all our ancestors and the future generations. Amalakia, amalakua, amalakua, amalakia. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I think we should have one happy song too. And blessings to the ancestors being with us. My son who crossed over, his spiritual name was Coyote Wolf. And so that was a song we sent him home with. And then we sang the Coyote Wolf love song. So I want to share that one with you. And I don't know the origins of that. I learned it from the Shumish, but then I've heard it from other tribes too. And it gets into a thing, well, this tribe says they got it. And you know what? Coyote got it. And Wolf loves it. Whoa, yay, 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 yay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, yay, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, yay, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, yay, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, yay, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, yay, 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 whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, yay, 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 yay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Woo. Woo. Thank you. Oh. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you. Ta, right? Ta,
Ah,
ta. That's thank you.
Welsh, but thank you.
Welsh. So if you would like to unmute, we always do this at the beginning and end of our calls. Feel free to unmute and say a goodbye or a reflection or a gratitude or whatever you wish. Thank you again. Thank you, Grandfather Whitewolf. So much aloha to you.
See you later.
Thank you. Many blessings.
Oh.
Thank you. Many blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you. So many blessings. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grandfather. It's nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us from England, Betsy. That's awesome to see.
Hi, White Wolf.
Hi.
Thank you so
Hi.
much. How are you doing? You look well.
Good. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Grandfather. Hope to
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Love you.
Thank you, Grandfather. So many blessings to you.
Thank you, Karana. Blessing to you, honey. Oh. Okay.
Thank you, White Wolf. Great to hear your voice again and see your
All
face.
right.
I love you guys.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, love
Hey,
you guys.
there's somebody here.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
All
Aloha.
right. Aloha.